There's a key election going on in Wisconsin, and Mike McCabe is joining us now. Mike, you are, as has been termed by so many, in the most crowded Democratic field in a generation in Wisconsin's gubernatorial election. That can't be a fun place to be.
Oh, it's a treat for the voters as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing wrong with voters having a lot of choices. It's a wide open primary. There's no clear front runner. And I like my chances because we've built a volunteer citizen army here in Wisconsin, people talking neighbor to neighbor all over the state. The response to our campaign has been magnificent so far. So far, so good.
Well, there's a lot at stake here because those who are worried about gerrymandering, the governor will have a tremendous influence over where, after the new census, the new lines will be drawn in Wisconsin, and the state legislature is responsible for it, but the governor has a big hand in that. So there's an awful lot at stake this time round.
Oh, there's a huge amount at stake, and our state needs to turn in a different direction. Wisconsin is slowly but surely becoming a shadow of its former self. Our state has lost its way. Right now, we're at a point where so far in the 21st century, no state in America has lost more of its middle class than Wisconsin. We've got levels of economic inequality not seen in Wisconsin since the Great Depression. What it boils down to is we've got a government that is working spectacularly well for a very few at the top, and it's simply not working for regular working people in Wisconsin. That's got to change, and it won't change without a really different kind of leadership in our state.
And I love that you speak of regular working people because you have a history that goes all the way back to the 80s in terms of trying to serve the community in a way that makes a difference. I know you were involved in a kind of, I'm going to call it auditing, almost a bird dogging of how tax money is spent. And you kind of come from those working class roots, and you have stayed connected. That's why your website is called, I believe, Blue Jeans Nation, isn't it?
GovernorBlueJeans.com is the campaign website.
Okay.
And I actually started a group called Blue Jean Nation before I ever became a candidate for governor. I'm somebody who was born and raised on a dairy farm. So I grew up working the land and milking cows with my family. I've spent most of my adult life as an independent watchdog. And in more recent years, I ran a group called the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, exposing the influence of big money in politics and working to break the grip of wealthy donors over our government, and helped form that group and ran it as its director for 15 years. The group you mentioned before, I worked for a group called the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance. That's the one that bird dogged how tax money is used in Wisconsin. So my work really over the course of most of my adult life has been as an independent watchdog, working to try to get regular people representation, a seat at the table, ultimately get regular people in the driver's seat of our government. And heaven knows, though, Wisconsin used to be known from coast to coast as a beacon of clean and open and honest government. And now we've watched corruption and cronyism and what amounts to legal bribery take root in our state. It's got to be uprooted. And if we're going to get regular people in the driver's seat of our government, we really need a new kind of politics in this state.
Well, Scott Walker, who's up there, and this is his third term, I think he's shooting for. He is old world, man. He is really trying to take a step back in that state.
In so many ways, Wisconsin has hit the rewind button and is trying to move back to the 19th century. This was a state of firsts. Child labor laws were started in Wisconsin. Unemployment compensation and workers' compensation were invented here. Social Security was cooked up at the University of Wisconsin before it was taken national. This is the state that was the first to create kindergarten, first to create a vocational, technical, and adult education system. This was a state of firsts, and now in so many ways, our state has hit the rewind button. And the goal of our government in recent years, those who are lording over us at the state capitol, has been to try to roll back as much of that progressive reform as possible. Well, it's time to renew that progressive spirit in Wisconsin. That's what this campaign's all about. And I've decided I'm running a campaign that's going to rely on small donations only. We're not taking any single donation over $200. That means it's got to be crowdfunded. It's got to be a lot of people being willing to give those small amounts of money. But then it's also got to be people powered. It's got to be people being willing to give their time and their energy, talk neighbor to neighbor. And the thrilling thing is that we've now got over 2,100 volunteers fanned out across the state of Wisconsin in every part of our state, going to door, holding up banners at busy intersections, doing so much to just reach out to voters in every part of our state. That's what it's going to take. We're not going to beat Scott Walker with money. He'll have vastly more than anyone. To get a new governor, we've got to beat him with ideas, with vision, and with people power.
You have very progressive positions. As you say, your vision is a progressive one. If you look at your platforms, I mean, you're about universal basic income, about Badger Care available to everyone in Wisconsin, renewable energy. You want to make the state a leader in that. These are things you don't hear a lot in the current political climate.
No, there's been a poverty of thinking, a poverty of ideas in Wisconsin for too many years. And like I said, this used to be a policy pioneer, this state was. And that's got to be renewed. We've got to commit ourselves as a state to erasing the words working poor from our vocabulary and making that phrase go away in Wisconsin. And that means a living wage for every worker, a $15 an hour minimum wage. It means health care for all. And I am in favor of making Badger Care a public option that anybody can enroll in if that's the health insurance that works best for them. I want this state to be a national model for healthcare reform. I want this state to be a place that dedicates itself to debt-free education for everyone, high-speed internet everywhere. And yes, I want Wisconsin to aim to be the first state in America fully powered by renewable energy. And we're lagging badly in that race. We're not even making a serious attempt to compete in that race yet. That's got to change. But to get all those things, we've got to deal with the fact that there's a cancer growing in the body of our democracy. We've got to cut that cancer out. It is the cronyism and the corruption and the legal bribery that has been allowed to take root. It's been my life's work to try to uproot those problems and those weeds, and I'm going to take that right into the governor's office.
You met your wife 29 years ago in the Peace Corps. I was reading that, you have a history of public service, but it goes all the way back to where you met your wife.
Well, I served in the Peace Corps in Mali in West Africa, and I served there with my wife. And we actually got married shortly before shipping out overseas. And that of course was a life-altering, life-changing experience for me, and had a lot to do with shaping my politics and of course my upbringing, growing up on a dairy farm and living that rural existence. That of course shaped my politics, taught me everything I need to know about the common good. I actually participated in 2 barn raisings. One neighbor lost one to a tornado, one to a fire, and people came from miles around to help build those neighbors a new barn. And I participated in those things. That taught me everything I needed to know about neighbors helping neighbors. And we got to renew that spirit that we're all in this together. We don't leave anybody behind, and we look out for each other. And that's a spirit that's gone missing in Wisconsin here for quite a few years now. It's part of our heritage. So is the conservation ethic, that duty to protect the land and the air and the water. That's gone absent in recent years in Wisconsin. That's got to be brought back. But it all requires a brand new kind of politics and a very different kind of leadership. And we've got to challenge the big money game that has such an enormously corrosive effect on our democracy. We got to breathe life back into democracy if we're going to be able to accomplish any of those other goals that I'm campaigning for.
Yeah, and you're the real thing. These are not talking points. If you look at your history, you can see how you are compelled to try to find this direction that you're talking about, find your way back to this direction. As you say, we've sort of lost our way. And I mention this because you were a legislative aide in Wisconsin politics to GOP legislators. You saw them and must have seen this leadership lose its way along the many years that you've been active.
Oh, the Republican Party was so radically different back in the early 1980s when I was first around the Capitol. There were Bob La Follette Republicans back then. There were Nelson Rockefeller liberal Republicans back then. There were Republicans who were pro-choice on abortion back then. Politics has changed so much. The parties have changed so much. I've never been a member of a political party over the course of my life. I was an independent watchdog, and that work put me in a position of calling out both Democrats and Republicans when I saw wrongdoing or unethical conduct. I am running as a Democrat. I'm in a crowded primary that'll be held on August 14th here in Wisconsin. And clearly, I've been around the Capitol for a long time. I know how government works, but I also know how it fails regular people and how it's been put to work for just a wealthy and well-connected and privileged few at the very top. And there are way too many forgotten people living in forgotten places all around Wisconsin. And they need representation. They don't have it at the Capitol today. I aim to give it to them.
I like that you do know your way around the Capitol. I think that's what your constituency needs. And Mike McCabe, I wish you the best with some real, legitimate, progressive positions. If you want more information on Mike McCabe, the website is governorbluejeans.com. And if you want to donate, you can donate at governorbluejeans.com/donate. It's a crowded field, as he says, but we wish him the best. Mike McCabe, thank you for joining us today on Rebel Headquarters.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.